everyone, this is Greg from Greg's Whiskey Guides. You know me as Grégoire as well from France. This is a special whiskey review today. In fact, this is maybe my proper first whiskey review devoted to only one whiskey, but as usual there will be another only one whiskey on the table related to this one I'm going to talk about, because I have to always some connection with other things, and also because blended whiskies doesn't come from nowhere. They come from association of single grains and single malts usually. Okay, so this is a very special review indeed, because this is after my searches, late searches I have to say, from a few years ago. This is probably, and I'm talking of course about Grand Old Parr 12 years old Scotch blended whiskey. This is probably the first whiskey and Scotch whiskey I ever tried in my life, I guess. Probably around 30 to 35 years ago. And I'm not talking about going somewhere, being student and mixing Ballantines or G&B with Coke and not memorizing anything about it. No, I mean proper as much as I could at that moment, taste in the family house, in the family flat, when we had guests or special occasions, lunches, Sunday lunches and stuff, and we had on the table for the different, even if it was only the family, several things on the table, usually a port bottle, ouzo, which is a kind of with anise aperitif, which most people know the French version, which is Ricard. So yeah, whiskey was not the big thing on the table, but I discovered my father was offered this bottle, which he was and is still a travel retail blended whiskey mainly, even if it had some success in London in the early 20th century. So yeah, I'm gonna talk to you a little more about this whiskey, and then I'm gonna taste it, and then I'm gonna taste also another whiskey which is the main component of this blended whiskey. Okay, so this whiskey is associated, and it is a marketing trick, or at least a marketing choice, with a person which is supposed to have lived in England from 1483 to year 1635, and yes, you're hearing well, this guy Thomas Parr is supposed to have lived 152 years in his life. And as the blend we're talking about dates from was launched in 1871, even if I also seen some records talking about 1909. And this person was so much famous on the court of Charles I, the king. It was pictured by Rubens, the painter, the Dutch painter, and also by Van Dyck. So you have his portrait here, or here, and this person has been chosen as a sign of longevity. And besides the very particular and fancy kind of content glass, the bottle itself is supposed to be a replica of 17th century Scottish bottles, and that's why they got some cracks, some amazing cracks on the sides, even almost everywhere on the bottle. And this is I'm going to to you more about the bottle, but now this a bit more about the story, right? So he is portrayed here. So it's the Rubens portrait. In fact, sorry, it is portrayed here on the box, and it is also, there's some kind of effect here where, sorry, I'm gonna try to, yeah, so there's kind of a special effect portrait in relief there on the box as well. So this is a bottle I had in very early this year, probably 2019 bottling. If you see the color is like this. We're going to talk more about it in a moment. What else can I say about this whiskey? Grand OLD PARR is a brand that was founded by the brothers James and Samuel Greenless, which founded the Greenless Distillers Company, and then they merged with a guy named Williams and named MacDonald, and they were part of the DCL company, later on Guinness, and then Diageo. So today it's a Diageo owned brand. First expression that came out was the Grand OLD PARR 12 years old, bottled at 43% most often in export, as I understand, but mine unfortunately is a bottle at 40. It's a recent bottle I got from La Maison du Whisky for around 63 precisely euro the liter. But it's around 40, usually at 70-75 CL, depending on the market, and often stated rather 43% ABV than 40. There's also other expressions famous, and some having awards, worldwide awards. The OLD PARR Superior, which is a 15 years old bottle of 43% once again, and the OLD PARR Superior, sorry, 18 years old. There were also a Four Seasons series for travel retail once again, featuring each one of the season and highlighting some of the malts in there. The main malts, and that's why there's another bottle on the table, even if it's an independent bottling one. Sorry, I don't have no more official CRAGGANMORE, that's what I'm talking about. I have a cask strength single cask bourbon hogshead, sorry, CRAGGANMORE, and it has some typical notes that I can find, that one experienced people can find in the blended whiskey here. So the company in the beginning owned also when they got associated with the Williams family, the Williams were owning the Glendullan distillery. So we're speaking now of two distilleries of the Speyside, right? So CRAGGANMORE and Glendullan. So these two are the heart of this blend. Often there is a blend, single malt, that is leading the Scottish blended whiskey, that can give some heart, some character to it, even if it's all often 30 to 40 or 60 sometimes whiskies blended together. There's often one single malt, or two or three or four, that are the highlights of the malt part of the blend and give it some of his character. Right. If you want to have some comparisons about the dates, because this is a very old blended whiskey, one of the very first indeed in the Scotch whiskey history. I've checked about it. The first one, yes, and I knew it, but there was a tricky question in the latest Aquavite Roy quiz, so I didn't choose this one, though I thought it was the first one. Never mind. 1853 Old Glenlivet Usher's blend is considered by the historian and experts. By the way, I used this, among other things, absolutely wonderful pocket book that I bought for around €1 in second-hand, as you see, shop books a long time ago. It is a 1993 book from Charles MacLean. This is very interesting about the story of Scottish whiskey brands. So yeah, 1853 the first blended whiskey from Scotland. Then 1863, sorry, we have the bells. Then we have the first expression closing to something we can compare to this one, the Johnny Walker Black Label 12 years old. Wasn't existing at that time, but in 1865 the ancestor of the Johnny Walker Black was called Old Highland. Was out, released, and then we have the first Chivas blends that were not super successful were released in 1870. Then 1881 only the Chivas Regal that we know now. We had to wait until 1897 for the famous Cruise, 1910 for the Ballantine's Finest, and 1909 for the Johnny Walker Red Label. So this gives you some comparisons about this expression. Right, so now let's go to the tasting. It's what people want the most, I know that. So once again, I'm going to take some water. I've got my notes here. I've tasted this now around 3 times, so I can speak a bit more about it. And forgive me, I will rely on my notes if I cannot, because it's a quick tasting and it's always the same. I like to take a lot of time, so it's not really for me the good option to do reviews on videos of something I don't know, except for blind, of course. And I enjoyed to do the blind recently with Johnny and from Spirits People, Anthony and Nikki from New Drum Drinker. But I like to revisit, and I will do it for this numbers series. So once again, what do we have here? Let's do a short swill. So you see the color. Of course, there's E150A, and it's chill filtered. But we have a very nice viscosity here. I will say medium, with the legs. I don't know if you can see the legs, just a bit. They're getting down, not quickly, but let's say, yeah, medium time. What do they reveal? This is old, this is fat, even if some of the fat oils have been removed by the chill filtrations, as many of you know. So what else can I say on the nose now? On the color, yeah, even if it's artificial, I forgot to mention, I believe for the previous tasting, this contains much older, and it's not an information, it's an opinion. I believe it contains much older single grains than 12 years old, and that is maybe the secret of this blend. Also the fact it's very well crafted over the years. My memories of 30 years ago, of course, as I was not an experienced drinker, are completely different. I also suspect the bottle was a bit let's say much OBE and maybe a bit degraded, but I remembered some weird metallic notes, but as well some very pleasant smoky notes, but very subtle. Probably my first pleasant memories of a smoky whiskey, if I can say, because it's still blended whiskey, so except for some special blended whiskies today. They tend to temper a lot the smoke. It's only in things like Black Label 12 or you got the old White Horse and VAT 69. We have some smoke in it. That's more prominent than the usual blends, I mean. So what do we have here? We have an exceptional, I have to say, balance. Really exceptional. Great depth, great complexity. Natural and unnatural caramel, candied fruit, dried fruit, raisins, apricots. There's some nice dark chocolate in there. A hint of smoke, very thin but integrated, well integrated smoke. Oh, some nice honey as well, complex honey, what we say toute fleur in French, all flowers, honey. There's a hint of heather honey in there, acacia honey, several kinds of honey. There's some slight delicate floral notes as well. Let's see if I have some more precise notes here. Yeah, baked apples. Also maybe some licorice, and which is also, by the way, I poured myself a bit of a CRAGGANMORE. Characteristic of this of the CRAGGANMORE style. It's the heart of this blended whiskey. Once again, let's put the bottle a bit closer so you can maybe see it and you know what we're talking about today. Yeah, we learn always with time how to do better disposals, how to do reviews. So apologies if it's a bit amateurish. Okay, let's go on the palate now, and forgot to mention, because it's a bit delicate for me, and a big thank you to Antonio from Whiskey Quest. He spoke about it in a live, and because I answered in the chat why this whiskey was very special for me, it's because it's one of my favorite whiskeys. I understand, I remember of my father who passed away 3 years ago, yeah, it was long time wanted to have this bottle, but it was not available unless you go in UK market and stuff. And I hesitated a lot. Will it be as good as in my memory? It was some kind of I was staying away from it, and then when I saw La Maison du Whisky finally imported after a long time, I said, let's grab one and see what's all about. Also, Ralphie did a nice review about it, another batch probably, and also Antonio mentioned it. So cheers, Antonio, thank you. And yeah, cheers everyone. Thank you for following me. Thank you for being supportive. And before I forget, March 3, that is next week, it will be the first anniversary of the YouTube channel in its new form, devoted to making videos about whiskey and not only compiling videos from other people, which was previously for years and with another name channel. So yeah, I will raise a glass very soon for this very wee event, but it's an excuse to go live with you guys if you are available. So the palate now, Slangeva, as it is Scottish. Very complex, very pleasant, super balanced. Honestly, between all the floral, fruity, that kind of licorice background and smoky background, dried fruits, sweet spices, not really prominent, and so everything is so melted well together. It's a masterful creation for me. Even if that's lost a bit with old style, I reckon that. Yes, wow, beautiful baked apples, pears, and also candied, lots of candied fruits, dried fruits, apricots, raisins, um, also there's some, yeah, dark chocolate, very discreet. What can I pick up else here? Yeah, the pear and apple, not only apple, some leather as well, and that plus the licorice and the black chocolate for me comes from the CRAGGANMORE. I will taste it after because it's a higher ABV than this one, 60%, 43%. Cannot go back to this one after. Okay, now I'll try to add a few drops of water, see what's going on. This is a kind of blend that's so very well crafted and so delicate, even if it's designed, don't get me wrong, and let's not be hypocritical. Many blends are designed to be taking ice as much as possible and not flatten and not decrease of interest with it, even if they do, because it's a shock to the system for the whiskey, that temperature that goes down to 0 and more with the lots of ice that people can put in it. But I like to put just a little of ice. I haven't tried for this one, I didn't dare it, but I do for some I know, and it's not a review, then it's just for pleasure. And I like some kinds of notes that comes from iced blended whiskies and even sometimes malts in the summer. This is another topic, water with whiskey. We'll come to it. So just added a few drops. Maybe I'll shoot some more like the blenders do to assess whiskeys. In fact, they often dilute much more when I have a series of samples to try, which is not my case today. Oh. With good things like that, you cannot be short and do 2 minutes review. Yeah, it's very good. There's this. No, others can do. I can't. I have to explain the context. I have to. Otherwise, we will do it all the same, right? With our different opinions. But I believe I have something else to say, and everybody has something different to say. So this is my format. I was sure we'll do 15 minutes, and I'm getting over. But I will put the timings, don't worry, for people who just want to know what I think about a whiskey, and that's it. Yeah, the nose getting more floral, more fruity, more seductive. The vanilla comes through. Oh, it's so wonderful, frankly. Something from vanilla to citrus fruit, I forgot to mention. Citrus fruit in kind of candied, a bit sherbety, very pleasant. Everything again is very well crafted, integrated, intricated. It's like a cognac, but which is a whiskey, and I talk about blending wise there. But it's something that had more taste than the average commercial VS or VSOP, that means very young cognacs, and don't forget it's 12 years old minimum age. So I also guess, I did my researches, but I couldn't find a lot of details of how many single malts, how many single grains. Is it a 25% malts like most often, or more content? The age of these contents, it's very hard to know. It's a bit of a secret as well. 12 years old minimum, but for me it's rather, for the grains I will go for 18 to 20 maybe for some of them, and some of the malts I will go to 18 years old or 15 for a minority of them, and 12 for the majorities. Just a guess. If someone has the precise information, don't forget to put them on the comment, and thank you in advance. Yes, so lovely, lovely pears, lovely apples, lovely some hazelnuts as well. It's come from the sherry content probably. Beautiful, really beautiful. What's the rating on this one? You'll be surprised. I tend to rate a bit more than the average, if average means something. It means if you rely on Serge Valentin or Ruben Leuten or people like that, they're also rating out of 100. Probably you have to drop 6 points, 4 to 8 points, let's say, to my rating if you're gonna, it's my estimation, if you want to have their rating. Right, let's get some water and go to the cask strength one. Okay, so I'm trying now a single malt that's in the heart of this blended whiskey. And it's important to have an interest, and when it's stated, it's even better because you're sure of your information. And this is stated in several records and several, also I think on a website, I don't remember. Charles MacLean said it is inside, and also other important whiskey writers. I used 4 books for this research, and internet was not very interesting compared to my old books, I have to say, for this one. As often for the old good stuff. And this is, yeah, CRAGGANMORE single cask, distilled 1993, bottled July 2008, 2002, 62 bottles, bourbon hogshead, 60% ABV. I should have bought 2 of this one at least. This is very, very good. Cadenhead from the authentic collection, mind you. There's a slight OB effect here, old bottle effect, because I haven't gassed it or anything, because so far it has been behaving well, so I didn't want to rush it or change it, because I don't open it often. So it's another clue if you want your malt to stay. Don't open it often if it's a rare stuff. If you want to gas it or film it, I usually film some of the rare stuff. Yeah, lots of some oak, but some licorice, some dark chocolate, more citrus fruit than on the blended whiskey, and some spices, and no smoke there because it doesn't come from. At least you have some CRAGGANMORE for the 19th century, where almost every Speyside was smoky. Yeah, and many Scottish whiskies, because they were the stills were fired by using the coal or the peat, and also there was the malting. There was peat in there, peated. More oak, some smoke, but possible some wood smoke coming out there. Citrus with lemon first. Maybe some sorry, grapefruit as well. I put some water because it's a tough one, especially now that's lower, more oxidation in it, despite what I said. Some creamy side, some vanilla. Obviously it's a bourbon, so even if it's a hothead, it can have some different staves, but it's driven by the bourbon. So yeah, more ginger of course than in the blend, but yeah, get this licorice dark chocolate stuff is pretty much characteristic of it. So there you go. I see 30 minutes, I have to stop. I hope you enjoyed this a bit in depth, if I may say. You never have enough informations. I never have enough informations to be satisfied, but a bit in depth review of a beautiful blended whiskey that's close to my heart, if I may say, and also because it is good. If it wasn't good, I won't review it. Okay. Thank you very much for watching. Maybe I see you in the live, or later on other things coming in. I will do other reviews like that, maybe not as long. Thank you so much and see you. Bye bye.